Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Hope everyone's staying safe out there, doing well with everything that's going on. Hopefully we get back to some normality here soon. But I'm going to jump right to the point of the video. Very recently, there was a Twitter user who, and I'm not going to mention who it is. I'm sure some of you probably know anyway if you're watching this, but I'm not going to give him any more publicity than he already has, which isn't a whole lot. Somehow, I guess it's way easier than I thought to get verified on Twitter, as much of an accomplishment as that is. But this guy is just a terrible person, and more or less just mocking the death of Ayrton Senna, which is, I mean, obviously completely disrespectful to do that to anybody, but especially Senna. Just someone that died so tragically the way he went, and the kind of person that he was, and the legacy that he has. So I kind of wanted to make this video. Maybe you won't learn anything new out of this, but if you do, maybe this will stop one person in the future from bashing him. I don't know. It's not like this is a regular occurrence, but I still felt it appropriate to maybe just kind of highlight some of the great things about Senna and the kind of guy that he was. Was he a perfect person? No, absolutely not, but nobody is. So, with that said, let's go ahead and just kind of jump into this, and we'll take a look at some of the key points of Ayrton Senna and the legacy that he left behind. So I'm going to start out here with a paragraph from an article that's written by this guy. This is Andrew Benson of BBC F1. He's been around the sport for a while. I'm going to leave a link to the article in the description, just because it kind of highlights what this video is about, I guess. So, that said, standing behind Senna, holding a dictaphone at full stretch over the driver's shoulder, the reporter's arm began to grow tired and ache. What to do? Too hemmed in to swap arms, he couldn't remove it, or the interview would be lost. But the discomfort kept growing. Eventually, he made a decision. With trepidation, he rested his arm as lightly as possible on the shoulder of the biggest superstar Formula One ever had, arguably ever has had. He could have flinched or moved or objected to his invasion of personal space. A number of current F1 drivers certainly would have, but he didn't. He ignored it as if it wasn't happening. He stood still, tolerating the rudeness, apparently oblivious to it, until the questions were done, and then politely thanked everyone and headed off into the McLaren truck. And of course that reporter was Andrew Benson. On to 1992, Belgian Grand Prix. In practice, Eric Comas crashed his Liger heavily at Blanchimont and lost consciousness on impact. He doesn't really have much memory of the wreck. Senna was the first driver on the scene. He stopped his McLaren while the rest of the field raced by. He turned off the Liger's engine, and he held Comas's head upright to keep his airways clear until the medical personnel arrived. Comas missed the race, but was not seriously hurt, thanks in part to Senna's help. Senna put himself right in the line of danger to save a fellow competitor. A quote from Comas is, "After the impact, it seems that there were some leaks of fuel, so the risk was high. In a few seconds, it could have exploded. Yes, probably. So Ayrton Senna saved my life. Yes." Finally, I want to touch on the foundation, and before I do, I know I've left out a lot. I get that, but there's just so much to cover with this guy. It's pretty crazy. He's got one hell of a legacy. For those interested, though, I highly suggest you check out the 2010 documentary. It's titled Senna. It's got 6 awards. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 93%. The only criticism that I've really seen about it is actually from Prost, and he just pretty much said about them not really showing how their rivalry turned into a friendship before Senna passed away. But aside from that, it's a great documentary. So lastly, 2 months before Ayrton Senna's fatal crash, he and his sister had discussed creating a charitable organization, and the intent was to help people across Brazil, children and teens, with human development, schooling, stuff like that. In cooperation with other businesses, Ayrton Senna Institute was founded by his family 6 months later on the 20th of November 1994. Under the presidency of his sister, the organization has since then invested $80 million US in social programs and actions in cooperation with other businesses. Senna's impact is going to be felt for many, many years to come because of this foundation. For us, luckily, we have the ability to relive moments with the F1 series from Codemasters. GT6 kind of gave us an idea of his earlier days, but luckily for us, as technology is getting better, we get a better idea of how these cars behaved, how they raced, how difficult it was. We all know how good he was in the rain, and it sort of gives you more of a hands-on experience of that. It might not be 100% authentic, but at this time, it's as close as we're going to get. But for me, I always like to think about the what-ifs. Like, what if Senna hadn't passed away that day? Would safety have made as much of a leap as it had? Would somebody else have died in his place for this to happen? What teams would he have raced for? Would he have, when would he have retired? Would Jacques Villeneuve race for Williams and been a champion? Would Schumacher have been so dominant in the 90s and 2000s? Prost started his own F1 team. Would Senna have done the same thing? Maybe he would have gone into broadcasting. Maybe he would have left F1 at some point and tried out his hand at Rally or IndyCar. The possibilities and the questions are endless. But one thing is going to remain, unfortunately, and that's Senna is gone. But his name and his legacy were always going to live on in that foundation, which I'm going to leave links to that in the description if you want to check it out. And it's just his ability to give back to his home country is always going to remain. So I want to thank you guys for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope maybe you learned something. And if not, it's a good reminder on the legacy that Ayrton Senna had. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.